Forget New Year, New You. This season is about slowing down, locking the doors, and cozying up at home with the one you really want to do nothing with. Your dog. After the holiday chaos, those quiet nights with a blanket, a podcast, and your pup feel like the reset you actually need. Ollie helps make those moments easier with fresh protein-packed meals made from real human-grade ingredients, so your dog can enjoy some quality comfort food too. Choose from 5 recipes and get a personalized plan for your dog's needs. Meals arrive perfectly proportioned with a scoop and storage container, so serving is fast and mess-free. And with Ollie's in-app on-demand health screenings, supporting your dog is easy, ensuring more cuddles for many years to come. Visit ollie.com/truecrime and use code TRUECRIME for 60% off your first box.
On paper and on dating apps, Reginald Potts seemed like a catch. Attractive, successful, rich. But prosecutors would later tell a jury that Reginald's Prince Charming image was all a facade. According to court records, quote, a self-described real estate investor, Reginald presented as a wealthy man with a lavish lifestyle, a penthouse in the South Loop, a Bentley and other fancy cars, and money to frequent upscale restaurants and trendy clubs. Reginald was making the rounds of the dating scene in Chicago, even though he was technically still married to one woman and just had a baby with another. Also unbeknownst to some of the women Reginald charmed, he had a rather lengthy criminal record. He served time in prison. He was reportedly banned from the entire campus of Northern Illinois University. One of Reginald's most memorable heists was stealing luxury cars. He reportedly said he was the brother of NBA player Ron Mercer when he test drove Mercedes, Lexuses, and Land Rovers at high-end dealerships. In broad daylight, Reginald then drove off with the cars and never returned them. He was arrested in 1996, and when he headed off to the Illinois Department of Corrections, he pulled out letters from the Assistant State Attorney's Office that demanded he be put into special housing in prison. The letters were later alleged to have been forged. When he was released after serving his time, Reginald was back in trouble in the outside world. He reportedly sold drugs, got into fights, stole cars again, lied about his identity, and carried multiple fake IDs. And soon, he was back behind bars. According to prosecutors, Reginald's behavior didn't improve in jail. He threw urine from his cell and kicked the prison guards. That month in November of 1999 was probably the worst month that any of those correctional officers in Jackson County Jail ever had the entire time they worked in there, Cook County prosecutor Maria McCarthy said. She told the jury Reginald has no conscience, that he's a narcissist, and that the world revolves around him. He's entitled to do whatever he wants to whomever he wants to do it. No one tells him what to do, not even a person in authority. He's a liar. He lies as easily as he breathes about anything. If he tells you what time it is, look at your watch. He is an abuser. He has psychologically and physically abused so many people over the last 20 years. Police officers, jail guards, prison guards, attorneys, doormen, real estate buyers, and the women in his life, she said. Reginald was free in 2006 when he met Nailah Franklin in a chance encounter over a parking spot. According to court testimony, they developed an off-again, on-again relationship. Things wouldn't end well. This is Jillian, and in partnership with Law and Crime, you are listening to Court Junkie, episode 195. The name Nailah means one who succeeds, and according to those who knew her, it seemed like the perfect name for Nailah Franklin. Bold, beautiful, brilliant, one who succeeds. That was my sister, Marina Franklin wrote in court documents. 28-year-old Nailah, a graduate of the University of Illinois, was doing well in her career as a pharmaceutical sales representative. She was a natural businesswoman and had the it factor when she walked into a room. She loved fashion and being a girly girl, and never missed an episode of Oprah, her favorite show. She had several siblings. She came from a blended family. Nailah was the glue that held everyone together. When a younger sibling got pregnant unexpectedly, Nailah bought the crib and planned the baby shower and jumped in as the loving aunt. Her siblings had countless stories like this, where Nailah was their cheerleader and biggest supporter. Nailah Franklin was everything that Reginald Potts is not. Assistant State's Attorney Maria McCarthy said later in court, "She was hardworking, she was caring, she was giving, she was supportive, she was loving, she was full of joy. So many people loved her." Nailah had been casually dating Reginald Potts since May 2006, but the relationship didn't last long. According to prosecutors, Nailah broke up with Reginald less than a year later, after realizing he had lied to her about almost everything. She was moving on and had met a new boyfriend. Still, she acknowledged how hard it was to let Reginald go and cut him out of her life completely. Adios was the subject line when Nailah emailed Reginald in July 2007. "Reginald, I am writing this note to put an end to any and all communication between us. As you know, I have tried several times to remove you from my life, but somehow you slip back in there, and before I know it, we are talking and back in it. Overall, I'm very disappointed at how things have happened between us. To you, our interactions may have been nothing, maybe just one of your many games. But for me, it was not," Nailah wrote. "I am not too proud to say that I really did care for you. Somehow, through all your bullshit, I really did see the potential of a beautiful person. But ask me why, and I could not tell you." Nailah aired her grievances in that email. She felt like he was treating their relationship like it was just a game. He disrespected her, flirted with her friends, and he only cared about himself and making money. He was selfish. "Worse yet," she wrote, "since the first day we met, you and your life has been nothing but lies." And there was more. What troubled her was that Reginald was a father of at least 3 children with 2 different women. She said he hadn't acknowledged his children ever existed before to her. Nailah wrote that Reginald probably had a girlfriend the whole time they had been seeing each other. Multiple women. He was actually married, although he and his wife were divorcing. He had recently had a baby with another woman named Ina Dorsey. He had reportedly had another girlfriend, and other women spent the night in his condo. In her email, Nailah was trying, once again, to permanently end things with Reginald. If she let her guard down and impulsively called him, "Don't answer," she told him. "It doesn't mean anything. It was just a slip of the brain," Nailah wrote. As the weeks went on that summer, Nailah reportedly kept finding things out about Reginald, which made it even harder to forget him. At one point, she contacted Ina Dorsey, the woman who had had Reginald's baby. Ina was just as surprised to learn about Nailah, since Ina thought she was the only one in Reginald's life too. Reginald and Ina, who stayed at home taking care of the baby, had been searching for a house to buy for their growing family. Ina confronted Reginald about his unfaithfulness, but Reginald denied it. She would later say he became violent. Ina and Nailah stayed in contact. Meanwhile, Nailah read a Chicago Sun-Times story that someone had emailed her. The story said that Reginald, quote, had once been arrested on drugs and weapons charges out of Chicago and for threatening a Highland Park police officer who was investigating him for stealing cars. While he was left alone for just a moment at the Dirksen Federal Building, the skinny Potts slipped out of his handcuffs and escaped. While on the lam, he called the FBI to boast that they would never catch him. Agents later found him hiding under a bush 2 weeks later and arrested him. "This shit is hilarious," Nailah said, forwarding the story to her friends. She blind copied Reginald so he would know that she knew. It set Reginald off. "Bitch, I'm rich, so that shit doesn't even matter," he wrote in the subject line of his response. He said the article didn't embarrass him, that it just made Nailah look bitter and desperate. He commented on how sad it was that Nailah was so caught up in him, and how she was so mad that he wouldn't take her calls or come over to hook up with her anymore. He told her if she kept talking shit and sending articles, he would reveal sexual images of her. In a long voicemail on Nailah's phone, Reginald called her venomous and desperational. Nailah didn't deserve all the wealth that Reginald had, he said. Another voicemail sounded more threatening when Nailah played it back for her friends to hear. She wanted her friends to hear it, just in case anything happened to her, Nailah told them. According to her friends, Reginald's voice said in the message, "I could erase you, and I should have somebody come over there and get you now." Nailah then emailed Reginald to say that she had filed a police report and would seek an order of protection. She told him, "If you come anywhere near me, you will be back in jail, I promise. You are crazy. You hit women. You are a bully. You are extremely dangerous, but you're not going to bully me." Then Nailah went out of town for a few days to see her new boyfriend. It was a temporary reprieve. When she returned back to Chicago, she again reached out to Ina to team up and share information, since Ina also wanted to get an order of protection against Reginald. On September 17, 2007, Nailah told a friend that Reginald threatened to kill her. "If something happens to me, he did it," she said. It sounded like a premonition, because the next day, Nailah disappeared. The last time she was seen alive was on the video surveillance from her apartment building's lobby. She was walking out with Reginald in the early afternoon of September 18th. On September 18th, 2007, Nailah called in to work and took a personal day. After that, she stopped answering her emails, texts, and calls when her supervisor at the pharmaceutical company, or Andre, the new man in her life, tried to reach her. It wasn't like her. Nailah was usually dependable at her job, and she didn't normally ignore Andre. Then something strange happened that afternoon. Starting around 4 p.m., Nailah's phone came back to life, although it didn't sound like her. From court documents, quote, "Her coworkers received messages that made no sense. They purported to say that Nailah was working in places where she demonstrably was not. A man called from Nailah's phone to make a dinner reservation under the name Franklin for later that evening, but never showed up." In another instance, Brent DeMar, one of Nailah's ex-boyfriends, got a string of messages completely out of left field that didn't sound like Nailah either. The caller said, "Hello, can you hear me? Can you hear me?" Brent thought it sounded like Nailah's voice, but there was too much air noise to be sure, and the call disconnected after just a few seconds. Then another call came in and immediately disconnected. Brent called back, but it went to voicemail. Then, around 10:15 p.m., several 911 calls were placed from Nailah's phone. There were no voices on the calls, but there was noise and music in the background. Reports state that the caller was in the South Loop, close to 1111 South Wabash Avenue, which was Reginald's condo building. By 11:05 p.m., Nailah's phone went quiet again. All incoming calls went directly to voicemail. Nailah's best friend Dana was worried and went with friends to Nailah's apartment to search for her the next day, September 19th. The unit was locked. Dana thought that was strange. She had a spare key. When she opened the door, she saw the condo was a mess. Nailah's computers and her iPod were gone. Her car wasn't where she normally parked it in the garage. It, too, was gone. According to court documents, Dana was able to access Nailah's voicemail. The threatening message Nailah had played for her had been deleted, but a different, innocuous-sounding message left by Reginald was still there. Dana reported Nailah missing, and the media picked up the story. Nailah's disappearance was covered by numerous media outlets, including the Chicago Tribune. Her photograph was displayed across TV stations and on missing posters. Nailah's younger sister, Ashley, had been away at college when she got the call that Nailah was missing. She put up posters in Chicago, from downtown all the way to the suburbs, she later wrote in court documents. We were determined to find her. Nailah Franklin, by now, had been missing more than a week. Another one of her sisters, the one Nailah had planned the baby shower for, decided not to cancel the birthday party for her 1-year-old daughter. It was surreal, the sister said, trying to celebrate and look at her child's face, all the while wondering where Nailah was and if she was okay. One passerby who heard the news report about the missing pharmaceutical sales rep noticed a box of anxiety pills left out in an alley by Reginald's condo. The pills were prescription only and looked out of place. They were the same kind of samples that Nailah carried with her. The passerby left the pills in the alley and called the police. By the time investigators arrived, the box was gone. But more pill boxes popped up. Not far from Chicago, a Calumet City police officer on a routine patrol found 6 boxes of pill samples addressed to Nailah in a parking lot. The police officer's find was a major break in the case. Reginald had been in the area before, looking at redevelopment projects, and just down the road, his brother-in-law owned a video store that had gone out of business. 5 days later, authorities found Nailah's car abandoned a few blocks away from where those 6 pill boxes were found. There was no blood or fingerprints found in the car, although police did find fibers which suggested someone had extensively wiped it down with a piece of cloth. But in the car, there was one discovery: 2 Remy Martin advertisement cards. Reginald had reportedly been seeing another woman who was a marketing manager for Remy Martin Liquors. Investigators searched the nearby forest preserve, a pond, and a golf course for any sign of Nailah. They found jewelry and another Remy Martin card like the ones they had found in her car. Reginald's brother-in-law owned the shuttered video store that had a parking lot next to the forest preserve. 20 feet away from the lot, that's where police found Nailah's remains in a shallow grave. It was a grisly sight. Her body had been exposed to the elements. Because her body was practically skeletonized, investigators believed she had been dead for 8 to 12 days. They put her date of death as between September 16th and September 20th. Her death was quickly ruled a homicide. Dr. Kendall Crowns, the pathologist who performed her autopsy, determined her cause of death was asphyxiation. Dr. Crowns ruled that meant Nailah was strangled or choked or smothered, a way of killing her that typically doesn't leave evidence of an injury. There are no gunshots, no blunt force trauma, so I'm left with asphyxiation, he later testified in court. The news that Nailah had been murdered was devastating to her loved ones. Her sister Ashley wrote in court documents, quote, "It plays over and over in my head what she must have been thinking, what she was feeling the second she realized what was happening to her. Nightmares still taunt me with her screaming, but none of us was there to save her. None of us was there to hear her cries." The details were heartbreaking, especially the condition her remains had been found in. Not only was she gone, but there was no body for me to view, nothing left for me to kiss or hold on to, Nailah's mother, Maria, wrote in court documents. Nailah had the most beautiful hair, a lot of it. I asked the funeral director if I could have a lock of her hair. She said there was no hair when they received her remains. There was nothing. I'm crying as I write this. My hands are trembling as I type. Two days after Nailah vanished, police interviewed Reginald. He denied he was involved and said they had a relationship that was purely sexual, but that they had a falling out when Nailah found out Ina was pregnant and that Reginald was seeing other women. Reginald said he had not seen Nailah since August. They hadn't communicated since September 7th or September 8th. Where was Reginald on September 18th, the day Nailah disappeared? Reginald said he had an alibi. He told police he slept in until 11 a.m. and went to the county building to file paperwork, then to an auto store to deal with a bill. At around 4 p.m., Reginald was supposed to meet a contractor who was renovating his condo, but he said the contractor stood him up. Between 6 and 10:30 p.m., Reginald said he was baby gift shopping with his friends, Hugh and Castra, at Target on Roosevelt Road. Then he went out, meeting up with a girlfriend and then meeting up with a different woman who spent the night with him in his condo. Investigators followed up, and they later said that many parts of his alibi weren't corroborated. For example, the contractor who Reginald claimed had bailed on him denied ever having plans to meet with him in the first place. He said he had stopped remodeling Reginald's condo in August after his $5,000 check bounced and Reginald avoided his calls and never paid him. Reginald's friend Hugh backed up his story, but when investigators pulled the surveillance video from Target, it showed Hugh and Castra entering the store alone. No sign of Reginald. Quote, police brought Castra into the interview room, who impressed upon Hugh that this was a murder investigation, that the police were looking to implicate him, and that he needed to tell the truth. Hugh changed his story. He would repeat his revised statement to the grand jury and later at trial. He told the police that he went to Target with Castra, driving a Mercedes that belonged to Reginald. They printed out a registry for a baby shower and shopped for a gift. Between 7 and 7:45 p.m., Reginald called several times, said he was stranded in Hammond, Indiana, and asked Hugh to come pick him up. He told Hugh to take the 159th Street exit off I-94 and meet him at a gas station across the Indiana state line. Video surveillance backed up this version. Investigators watched Hugh pulling up at a gas station in Indiana and then driving away. Castra corroborated Hugh's version of events too. He said Reginald seemed normal, not dirty, no injuries on him, when they picked him up. Reginald claimed he had gotten into an argument with an uncle and was stranded in Hammond, and that's why he needed a ride back into Chicago. The gas station where they picked him up was a matter of blocks from where Nailah's car was eventually found. It was also 1 mile away from where her body had been dumped, behind the vacant business. After Nailah's body was found, police searched Reginald's apartment and found her missing iPod. They checked the serial number and determined she had originally bought them, although the device named Nailah's iPod had since been renamed to Reginald on September 19th. Phone records and Reginald's neighbors also provided police with important evidence to pinpoint where he was and what he was doing when Nailah went missing. Authorities had gotten lucky. Nailah's phone records were retrieved very soon after she disappeared, so it helped them get more precise locations of where her phone had been. At trial, the prosecutor described the cell phone data as breadcrumbs left to help solve Nailah's murder. On September 16th, Reginald's phone pinged either at or near Nailah's condo just before noon. One neighbor, Sterling Gunn, testified he saw Reginald sitting in his Bentley in the parking garage. Reginald asked Sterling if he should move, and Sterling said no, it was okay. When Sterling noticed Reginald again, Reginald was peering through the door from the parking deck, looking at him. Then again on September 17th, Reginald's phone was back at Nailah's from 7:40 p.m. to 10:39 p.m. One neighbor testified she saw him walking the hallways of the building at 9:15 p.m. Two security guards got a notice of a suspicious person in the building, and they ran into Reginald, who seemed to match that description. Quote, "They found Reginald in his stairwell and asked what he was doing there. He said he was smoking, but he didn't have a cigarette, and the guards didn't smell smoke. He also said his name was Johnson from Unit 403. The guards weren't fooled. They called the police and Reginald drove away in his Bentley. Officers searched the garage and found that the locking mechanism for the door had been tampered with." This was one day before Nailah disappeared. A grand jury indicted Reginald Potts with first-degree murder in March 2008. But justice doesn't always move swiftly. Sometimes it takes years and years.
Let's be honest. Buying cannabis shouldn't be complicated, sketchy, or low quality. That's why I want to tell you about Mood.com. That's MOOD.com. Mood ships federally legal cannabis straight to your door. No medical card, no hassle. And here's the kicker. The quality is better than anything you'll find at your local dispensary. Yeah, I said it. Whether you're into edibles, concentrates, flower, or just looking to explore, you'll find it all at Mood. And it's not just the variety that makes them stand out. Every product is sourced from small American-owned family farms that care deeply about what they grow. It's cannabis you can trust, delivered discreetly, and ready to elevate your mood. And because you're a listener, you get 20% off your first order. Just head to Mood.com, that's MOOD.com, to get started.
A terrible lesson for Nailah's loved ones to learn. The delays in the criminal case against 31-year-old Reginald Potts were mounting early on by October 2008. It was just about a year after Nailah's death, and Reginald's defense had made little progress finding expert witnesses to call. The delays were only going to get worse. At a court hearing, Reginald's defense attorney, Robert Johnson, said, "My ability to represent Mr. Potts has broken down." The defense filed a motion to remove himself as Reginald's counsel. "There is no communication between the two of you?" Judge Thomas Gaynor asked. "I need to have a reason before I let you out of this case." "Your Honor, again, this is my motion to withdraw. The reason being Mr. Potts, due to financial hardship, cannot pay for my services or the services of the experts needed in this case," he said. "Is this true?" the judge asked Reginald. "Yes," Reginald said. "There is no issue with myself and Mr. Johnson. We have worked well with trying to get the case to trial. But at this point, I have just come to the point where I cannot afford the expert witness fees, cell phone fees, medical examiner fees that are necessary to proceed to trial. I cannot. I explained to Mr. Johnson, I do not wish the public defender to represent me. If need be, I will represent myself." But how would Reginald expect to pay for all of the legal costs if he represented himself? It's not like those expenses would simply disappear, the judge pointed out. Reginald admitted he couldn't afford them. "The only asset that I would probably have is a property that I own. Actually, we got notice maybe about a month ago that they are actually in the process of foreclosure on that. The mortgage hasn't been paid in a while, $13,000 a month mortgage. So I don't know how we'll be able to pay for it with me representing myself pro se either. But I don't wish to have a public defender represent me," Reginald said. "Do you understand that the public defender's office has the resources to hire the experts?" the judge asked. "I do understand that," Reginald replied. Reginald argued he didn't want the public defender's office to represent him because he said it would delay his trial for 2 years. He insisted he wasn't guilty and didn't want to sit in jail for 2 years. He said he wanted to just represent himself. At one point, the judge told him, "If you would listen to me and stop treating me as your enemy, I'm not the prosecutor, all right? I'm presiding over this case and I am trying to protect you. You understand that you are charged with the offense of murder?" "Yes, I do," Reginald said. "And you understand that the state has filed a notice of their intent to seek the death penalty if you're found guilty of murder?" Yes, I do, Reginald said. Obviously, the ultimate punishment, the judge said. So you are in a very serious situation, as you know. The three prosecutors were experienced at trial, the judge warned him. They were going to be formidable foes in the courtroom against someone without any legal training. Do you understand that I think you're going to be at a tremendous disadvantage when you put your lack of legal skills against their very long and distinguished careers as prosecutors? The judge asked Reginald. Reginald didn't back down. I think the truth outweighs everything, he said. And Reginald, who told the judge he made $100,000 a year with his own investment company, was going to represent himself. Until Reginald changed his mind. By November 2008, the assistant public defender was representing him in court. Reginald would change his mind multiple times, the delays piling up, the trial far away, and Nailah Franklin's family still waiting for justice. By 2014, Reginald still hadn't been tried yet. The Chicago Tribune published a story describing how the case, quote, has made a maddeningly slow journey through Cook County Criminal Court, frustrating all involved and compounding the heartbreak that Franklin's family had already suffered. At that point, Reginald changed his legal strategy 5 times, according to the article. The family's been waiting for 7 years. Your Honor, we're asking that this be it, Assistant State's Attorney Maria McCarthy said with emphasis. Reginald Potts is very smart. So this, "aw shucks, I didn't know what I was getting into," is absolutely false. He did this for no other reason than to delay. The article expanded on why it had taken so long. Reginald's case was originally a death penalty one until the state of Illinois banned capital punishment. Death penalty cases usually took longer. Reginald initially wanted to represent himself, which also slowed things down, especially since there was so much discovery in the case. 10,000 pages of documents, 3,000 emails, and more. He appeared to struggle with understanding the basics at times. For an expert witness, Reginald wanted to call an epidemiologist, an expert in the outbreak of diseases, even though that wasn't how Nailah had died. Sometimes he also reportedly refused to go to court. Reginald remained behind bars while the trial kept getting pushed back. The Chicago Tribune reported he was involved in 200 incidents between November 2007 to July 2014, including how he once managed to gain use of a guard's computer and then access pornographic materials in the computer room, or how, after saying he hadn't had enough time with his attorney, he climbed onto a window ledge in a day room as guards tried to take him back to his cell. Meanwhile, losing Nailah and the long wait for justice was hard on her family. There were 2 deaths as a result of this crime, Nailah and her father. Nailah's mother wrote in court documents. He stopped eating and his health declined. He used to call me on Mother's Day and wish me Happy Mother's Day for Nailah. The last Mother's Day before he died, he called me, and this time he broke down and cried. He cried and he cried uncontrollably. He was always such a strong man. This broke him. Nailah's father died in 2013 without ever seeing the case go to trial. His death was from a broken heart, his family said. Eight years after Nailah's death, the trial finally began in Cook County in November 2015. The past 8 years of the defendant playing games has been increasingly hard, wrote Ashley, Nailah's sister, in court documents. Every time we prepared ourselves for the beginning of the trial, it would not go. The stress of the back and forth took such an additional toll on us. Wrote Nailah's brother, John Ashton, in court documents. I finally stood in the courtroom with the man who murdered my sister. After years of depression and anxiety that led up to this outcome, I was shocked by just how dispassionate he was. When I imagined Reginald Potts, I imagined a man once driven to the point of extremity. He had done something he knew was wrong, and now he had to atone for his actions. But no, the man who before me was unapologetic, arrogant, and still had the same ego that had caused him to do the unthinkable years prior. The 8-year delay was shocking, according to one legal expert. Bennett Gershman, a former New York prosecutor who is now a distinguished professor at the Elisabeth Haub School of Law at Pace University, said he can't fathom why the system broke down like this. He couldn't recall a criminal trial ever taking this long.
An 8-year delay between the charge, your murder, and the trial is an extraordinary delay. It's extraordinarily unusual for a delay like that to happen. I can think of reasons why a delay like that might happen, but as a prosecutor, I would see defendants who wanted to change lawyers and wanted to represent themselves and then wanted to change lawyers again. I would see quite a bit of litigation, motions, discovery, on and on and on. But never, ever do I recall a delay of 8 years.
He said typically when a defendant is in jail, the constitutional right to a speedy trial is something that everyone is aware of. With this case, he said it appears as though Reginald was trying to slow it down as best as he could, and that the judge and prosecutor should have done their best to move it forward.
So it seems to me that I lay the fault with the judge initially, because the judge is presiding at this trial. The judge is responsible for administering the trial, administering justice. And if the defendant wants to flout the rules and prevent the trial from happening, the judge should not allow that. The judge should order the case to go to trial. The prosecutor will be ready, as I'm sure the prosecutor was in this case. And frankly, I don't know why the prosecutor wouldn't be screaming and yelling to get this case to trial. The evidence, it seems to be overwhelming. I don't know why the prosecutor may have either sat back or wasn't aggressive enough to push this case.
Sometimes there are multi-year delays, like when a defendant runs away and can't be found, or if a defendant is mentally unfit to stand trial and needs medical rehabilitation first. But none of that applies to this case, he said. One reason the Chicago Tribune story presented was that perhaps the trial was delayed due to the amount of records there were in this case, a massive amount. Professor Gershman scoffed at this.
Every big case is a lot of evidence. This isn't the only case with a lot of evidence. Witnesses, documents, stuff like that. Every case has a lot of evidence. And the evidence is in the prosecutor's control. Yes, the defense attorney has to review the evidence, but it doesn't take 8 years to look at evidence. It doesn't take 8 weeks to look at evidence.
As for whether delays like this help the prosecution or the defense?
Historically, I think delay helps defendants, because the longer a case is delayed, the more difficult it might be for the prosecutor to prosecute the case. Evidence gets lost, evidence gets contaminated, witnesses die, or witnesses' memories, are lost. So to me, the interest in a speedy trial, would focus on making sure that this case is tried expeditiously. To me, it's defendants who seek to delay the day of reckoning, and maybe they'll get a great plea bargain out of it. If they wait and wait and wait, and the prosecutor gets frustrated, and maybe witnesses are not available. I don't know whatever the reason might be, until they arrive at a plea bargain.
But it doesn't appear as though a plea bargain was ever on the table in this case. During the trial, the judge allowed in some testimony about Reginald's alleged history of domestic violence against women and his volatile temper. Natalie Figueroa, Reginald's ex-wife, took the stand, as did Ina, his former girlfriend who had bonded with Nailah. Natalie testified she and Reginald already had a daughter together when they got married in 2005, and then they had a second daughter. They lived in an apartment in Naperville, a large suburb outside Chicago. She said Reginald was violent throughout their marriage, which officially ended in October 2007, just after Nailah's death. According to court documents based off of her testimony, Natalie recounted several instances of physical abuse that she suffered at the defendant's hands. Soon after they were married, they got into an argument while Natalie was driving on the freeway. Their daughter, then 4 years old, was in the back seat. Defendant hit Natalie in the face, near her right eye. She pulled over, screaming and crying. The defendant apologized and Natalie drove home. Her eye was badly swollen. She missed some work and school and had to wear sunglasses for a time. But she kept the incident to herself because she was afraid of the defendant and because he was on parole at the time. In the summer of 2005, the defendant pushed Natalie onto a bed, climbed on top of her, and tried to suffocate her with a pillow. He pushed down hard enough that she couldn't breathe. She finally broke free and called out to their daughter, who came into the bedroom. Natalie was going to call the police until the defendant said that he can do a lot of damage to her before they arrived. Later in 2005, the defendant attacked Natalie and choked her with both hands until she couldn't breathe. He stopped only when their daughter came into the room. By December 2005, their second daughter was born. The defendant had moved out of the Naperville apartment and was now living in Chicago. Sometime that month, he grabbed Natalie by the arm and threw her to the floor. Natalie was still too afraid to file a police report, but by January of 2006, she resolved to divorce Reginald, and she told him so. Reginald was enraged. He pushed Natalie and hit her in the head, causing her to bleed from her left ear. He refused Natalie's request to take her to a local emergency room, fearing that he would be arrested. Instead, he drove her to Northwestern Memorial Hospital in Chicago, dropped her off, and left. Reginald was still married to Natalie when he started dating Ina in March 2006. Ina and Reginald had a child together in June 2007, and according to her court testimony, Ina said she thought they were dating each other exclusively. She had no idea about Natalie and Nailah. Ina worked for a real estate company, and Reginald apparently was interested in developing some of their properties, including the complex where Nailah lived. It seemed doubtful that Reginald had the means to do such an ambitious project. According to court documents, on September 8, 2007, amidst the heated communications with Nailah, Reginald went to Ina's parents' house and asked for money, which Ina gave him. They started to argue. The defendant, who was holding his daughter, less than 3 months old, put her face down on a pile of covers on the bed and started choking Ina with both hands. He stopped when Ina's mother tried to break the glass in the door, which Reginald had locked, to get into the room. Reginald opened the door, grabbed his daughter, and left the house. Ina followed Reginald, but he pushed her down the stairs and drove off with their daughter, who wasn't secured in a car seat. Ina called the police, and Reginald came back to the house after they left. He was angry and started arguing with Ina's mother. Ina locked herself in an upstairs bathroom with the child until the police arrived again. Reginald came back the next day. He kicked the back door violently and screamed, "I'm losing my patience." The police removed him from the property. 3 days later, Ina tried to file for an order of protection, but she went to the wrong courthouse. She eventually got the order on September 18th, the day Nailah disappeared, and the day that Ina and Natalie first got in touch. It took her almost a week because she was afraid to leave the house. The defense told the jury that Reginald went to Nailah's condo on September 16th and 17th as part of their on-again, off-again sexual relationship, but that she wasn't home. On September 18th, Reginald went to see her a third time while he was in the neighborhood, looking at a nearby investment property. They saw each other until around 1 p.m. and then went their separate ways. Reginald didn't take the stand during his trial, although his defense called several witnesses who testified to that version of events that day. Their key witness was Aaron Allen, one of Reginald's friends and who was learning the ropes of real estate investment from Reginald. Aaron was Reginald's alibi, according to the defense. Aaron testified he hung out with Reginald on September 18th, the day Nailah went missing. Aaron and Reginald met for breakfast. Later, Aaron drove Reginald around Chicago and waited in the car while Reginald went into a government building to do some business. At noon, they went to the complex where Nailah lived, where Reginald was supposedly going to be doing some development. Aaron said he waited in the car for 45 minutes for Reginald, who promised to be right back. Aaron testified he was annoyed that he didn't get to go inside to see the property. By 1 p.m., Aaron and Reginald were on the road again, stopping at an auto body shop, then to a Bentley shop, then to another body shop since Reginald's Mercedes was in need of repair. Aaron dropped Reginald at home at 6 p.m. and then picked him up later that day and drove him to Hammond, Indiana, where Reginald's family lived on 159th Street. The house of Reginald's family was about 3 blocks from where Nailah's car was found, and not very far from where Reginald later got a ride back into Chicago from his friend Hugh. The jury needed only 2 hours to deliberate. They found Reginald guilty of first-degree murder. Convicted of murder and waiting to hear his sentence, Reginald Potts had plenty to say when he addressed the people in the courtroom in March 2016. He was 38 years old by then. He had been 30 when the murder occurred. Nailah's family was there, listening, as he spoke for about 40 minutes. I know the Franklin family may not want to hear from me, but I would be remiss not to say this. Having a mother and hearing Ms. Franklin's mother speak about the effect that her daughter's death had upon her, that more than anything throughout the sentencing hearing and throughout the trial, with me, I can understand that, he said. I know these may sound like hollow words, but they're not. Reginald said he was mischievous. He admitted he made mistakes stealing the luxury cars. He came from a good, loving family, and he was the only person in his family who was in trouble with the law. He disputed how he was portrayed during the trial. Quote, I was charged in 2007 with what was put in the media, the public, as a stalking murder, because I stalked Nailah Franklin because of the fact that she was my girlfriend, and I didn't let her go. And that has been the narrative that has carried this case the entire time. I think that allowed the public to view me in the way that it did. I did not stalk Nailah. I did not murder Nailah, period. I had a relationship with Nailah Franklin. She wasn't my girlfriend, which was testified to. I didn't have any anger towards Nailah Franklin. He went on. I have had numerous girlfriends in my life. I have had women who talked and said, hey, Reginald is dating this woman. He's doing this. You don't harm someone over that. And I think, again, Your Honor, that the way in which people have looked at me and the way this case was prosecuted was done off of a false premise. Reginald tried to answer for everything the prosecutor had said in court, his past crimes, his abusive relationships with the mother of his children. I am not a monster, Your Honor, he said. I am not an aggressive individual. I speak my mind. Judge Thomas Gaynor also heard from several members of Reginald's family, who called him a good person, kind-hearted, and a role model. The court reconvened, and a short time later, it was the judge's turn to speak and rendered Reginald's sentence. He said Reginald's claims blaming the media's narrative went against the evidence presented at trial. He pointed out that Nailah's neighbors saw him in the building in the days before her death. He said the evidence also establishes that the defendant is able to bend people to his will, a master manipulator. Some might call him a con man. He also mentioned the voicemail Reginald left when he threatened to erase Nailah. You didn't erase her, Mr. Potts, he said. She lives on in the hearts and the minds of all of these people who loved her and cherished her while she was alive, and continues to do so even in her death. I know who you are, Mr. Potts. I checked out your resume. You are a cold, calculating, conniving coward of a con man who must be punished. Then the judge sentenced Reginald to life in prison without the possibility of parole. And that's all for this episode. As always, I want to know what you think about this case. You can let me know by joining the conversation on Instagram @CourtJunkie, by tweeting me @CourtJunkiePod, or by emailing me at podcast@CourtJunkie.com. This episode was researched and written by Gabrielle Russon. To hear Court Junkie episodes without the ads or to hear additional bonus content, go to CourtJunkie.com/support, and that'll lead you to my Patreon page. Thanks again for listening. Until next time.